You're listening to the South Florida Leaders Podcast, hosted by Brian Fay. This is where leading business owners, executives, and professionals share the experiences, lessons, and strategies behind their success.
Well, hey, folks, welcome back. And today, joining us from beautiful South Florida is Brian Fay, and he's with Trinity Development Partners. And Brian has spent his career in construction and real estate investing. These days, he's really involved in ground up development. And he and his company are building what are called 55 plus active adult communities. They're building these from the ground up. Plus, he's involved in senior living. He's grown a portfolio of 16 properties nationwide at this point. He's done it very, very quickly. So, Brian, welcome to the show. Great to have you.
Yes, thanks for having me, Dave.
Yeah. So, Brian, tell me a little bit more about what your real estate business, well, I guess businesses look like right now.
Yes. Yeah, great question. So we have Trinity Development Partners. That's our development company. And like Dave mentioned, we focus on 55 plus or what we're now calling 55 and better communities.
I like that
Yes,
because
yeah.
I fit that criteria. So there we go.
Yeah, yep. And what we do, we spend almost 5 years, and we organized what I consider to be the best team we could possibly have, as far as architect, our GC, and our operator, and also ourselves as a part of one team. And we've created a great product, and we're just going right now all around Central Florida. And we have three major projects we're currently developing, and it's all with the same exact team. And whenever you're able to do that with the same team, you really hone in on exact costs, how everyone works, just really forming a concisive team together. It goes a long way. And we're able to really hone in on the numbers, the returns, the cost of construction, the time frame to occupy the buildings. And we're just using the same exact product and going from deal to deal to deal. And that's currently working very well for us. And that's on the development side. And then I have a few different companies for acquisitions where we go around and, it started with us buying highly distressed assets. So maybe they were empty or just very low occupancy, losing, 80, $100,000 a month. And we'd have to come in and completely turn them around. And, that went very well, but it is a big, heavy lift. So
Hmm.
now what we do is we really focus on stabilized assets that are very mom and pop ran. And for instance, we have two under contract that, great owners, they're just ready to retire, and they haven't raised rents in years and years. And they're about 35-40% below market
Wow.
rents right
So
now.
again, this is for the senior living facilities you're talking about right now, right, Brian?
Yes,
Okay.
senior living acquisitions. So this is our
Right.
acquisition arm. And so we're for that one, we're gonna go in and we'll close on that deal, and then just over the next 3-4 years raise the rents up to market. And it's a pretty easy business plan. So
Yeah.
yeah, we'll focus on that for our acquisitions.
Fantastic. So looking a little bit into the backstory, Brian, most, kids, when they're small kids, they're looking towards the future, thinking about being firemen or astronauts or things like that, not big time developers and acquisition specialists like this. But what got you into real estate and development in the first place?
Yeah, great question. So for me, I've always had just a strong interest in real estate for my entire life. I started right around 20 years old. I did a live-in flip with a friend where we lived in a house and we fixed it up while we were living there, lived in a construction site, and then
Wow.
sold it. And, we made a decent profit. And that's where it all really kind of started to click for me. And
So
at
that was
that,
like the first deal that really just kind of opened your
yeah.
eyes to the possibility of.
Yes, yeah. And then I didn't do anything for, years and years, but I educated myself. I read a ton of books. I started to listen to podcasts every time I'm driving. I went to a ton of conferences, just got in the right rooms with the right people that were doing deals. And and with my construction experience, I was always working on real estate in some capacity. And the idea of passive income and lifetime cash flow and different things like that really sparked my interest. Especially for me now, I have a family. I have a 10-year-old son. I have a 12-year-old daughter, an amazing wife, and I want to spend, as much time as I can with them. So, I really focused on real estate and, acquiring as many assets as I could to build up my monthly cash flow to be able to cover my expenses for the month so I could have a lot of freedom to do what I wanted. And that idea of freedom is, really what drove me.
Nice, nice, Brian. So there are lots of different ways to invest in real estate. You've talked about the fact that you got going with a live-in flip, or some people call those a house hack. That's a house hack on steroids, I guess. But you got rolling with that. You've been involved with the construction side of things. There's all sorts of different ways that people can invest. And I know you're doing a few different ones, like you're doing the senior living facilities, but when it comes to the whole ground up development side of things, why did you really decide to laser focus on that?
Yeah. Yeah, for me, it was a genuine interest because with my construction company, we did work for other developers,
Mm,
and I saw that there was a possibility of a really good living there to be an owner developer. Just the idea of construction, always intrigued me. And, it was a confidence that I'd be able to get it done, mixed with just really great returns and the idea of owning something new, all combined. And it really is interesting. It's like a big puzzle putting it all together, through the
yeah.
permitting process, all the engineering, all the architecture, the species studies and the geotech and everything you have to do to, get a building off the ground. It was super interesting to me. So I decided to jump right in.
So on the business side of things, when you're looking at properties, when you're evaluating opportunities, you mentioned that you're focused at this time on three different projects that you're working on. So,
Yep.
what are some of the non-negotiables for you when you're looking at a project or an opportunity?
Yeah. So, I mean, we look at so many different things. So, and it's a team effort. It's between us as the developer, our operator as well, making sure our GC and our entire team is on board. And, we use very specific software to check everything as far as demographics go, how many seniors are in the area,
Mm,
what's their average, how wealthy the area is,
yeah.
and being able to actually close on the dirt in creative ways is very helpful. Land is expensive in good locations, debt is expensive, overall construction is expensive. So when you're closing on the land, that's the most important part, to be able to
Mm,
get creative, get the dirt as least expensive as possible. So we're looking for, land that's right around $20,000 per unit. And if we get the land at that basis, we're able to really make the numbers work. And we
mm,
have to be above 300 units. So there has to be enough space for 300 units at $20,000 or less per unit.
yeah.
Then another thing we like to look for is sellers that own the land. Maybe they'll joint venture with us. Maybe they've owned the land for a long time. They want to partner and they'll put their land equity into our deals. That's another creative way.
Smart.
Or we'll close on the land, a larger parcel than we need, and then we'll sell off a portion of it and end up where we get our land for free free of cost and you have no
Uh,
debt on it, and if you're able to get the land for free, it really boosts returns for everyone. So you kind of have to get creative nowadays.
it sounds like you've been very creative. No, that's smart. So, Brian, speaking of seniors and whatnot, you're focusing on 55-year-olds plus active living communities. For folks who haven't really experienced that or been to one of those, what are some of the misconceptions people have about these kind of developments and investing in these kind of deals?
Yeah. So, I mean, there's a lot of them. I would say for us, it's a lot of education on the difference between our 55 and better communities compared to independent living, compared to assisted living, compared to memory care, compared to skilled nursing. And there's so many different levels as far as, how intensive the care is, the type of licensure you need. So just explanation of that and the levels of care and what that looks like and the services we offer based off of the difference between, assisted living, memory care, independent living, and skilled nursing and what it looks like.
So when it comes to the active living side of things, which is what you're really developing,
Yeah.
what's the big difference there? Like what do people need to know?
Yeah, great question. So
Yeah.
I would say it's more focused on longevity,
Hmm.
health and wellness, life extension more than caring for someone that um, is in a place that they need a lot of care. We're trying to prolong their life and prolong the time it would take them to have to get to some sort of assisted living community.
So what kind of facilities do these active living communities have? So it's more like a regular condo or apartment or something like that. It's not, nurses coming in or people getting assisted that way. So maybe paint us a picture of what they actually kind of look like and consist of.
Yeah. So our communities are you could describe them as a health and wellness resort. It's multifamily, very nice multifamily class A with a ton of amenities. We have a 22,000 square foot clubhouse, amenity center, pool, fire pits. We have inside the amenity center, we have virtual golf. There's a teaching kitchen where we do cooking classes, a full spa, sauna, longevity clinic, yoga, all sorts of activities going on. And I would say that is the main difference.
It sounds like a hell of a lot of fun.
Yes.
Sounds like a fun
Yeah.
place to stay.
I'm excited to live there.
Yeah. So if you kind of had to describe your approach to development in one or two sentences, what would you say?
Yeah. My approach to development, I would say, the team is the most important thing. And we spent a lot of time organizing the best team we could with the best contractor and then, really focusing on ways to get creative with the capital needed to get the projects done, along with the land we are purchasing. So a combination of all of that.
No, that makes a lot of sense. So let's take a little look at the track record. You've got, at the time we're recording this, you've got three projects on the go. I believe they're all in kind of different stages right now, but there's one that's pretty much there. So maybe walk me through uh, one of these deals and what's made it work so well for you so far.
Yeah. So with the development, what's made it work so well is, just partnering with the right team, really pushing along on permitting. That's a big thing, building relationships with the city, uh, and all of that. And then, on acquisitions, what's worked really well is ha partnering with great operators also. We've had some deals where they were losing 80, $100,000 a month, and and super low occupancy. And then we come in and, bring ourselves and a really good operator and completely turn them around to where they're cash flowing very nicely every single month.
No, that's huge. Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, it sounds like things are going really, really well. I know from just life in general and personal experience, nothing ever goes 100% according to plan. There's always
Mhm.
hiccups and challenges and things along the way. Especially when it comes to these active living community developments that you're working on, what's been one of your biggest learning experiences from either a deal or a partnership that didn't quite go as planned?
Yeah. I'd say on one of our deals, we had some pretty significant delays because of species.
Wow.
So one,
Something you completely didn't even think of when you were looking at that event.
no,
What does that even
no.
mean because of species?
So yeah, so for permitting, before you break ground, you have to do a species study where you hire an environmental company. They come out and there's certain species that you have to deal with that are maybe threatened or endangered, and there's certain processes you have to follow. And we had a decent chunk of land north of Orlando, and we're doing one of our development projects on it, but it was delayed because we had 52 gopher tortoises, and you have to actually hire their environmental company to come out, catch the gopher tortoises, and then bring them to a gopher tortoise sanctuary.
Wow.
Yes, it's a whole process. And it's even, this winter we had a very cold winter. So anytime the temperature goes below 55 degrees, you have to wait 72 hours to start up again. So we
Wow.
had a ton of days that it was under 55 degrees, and then we have to wait 72 hours and then start again. And this site, there's no water on it.
Mm.
So the gopher tortoises, they actually were burrowing down 25, 30 feet underground. So we had to bring giant excavators in and, dig these tortoises out. And they
Very
all,
gently, right?
yeah,
Not to squish the
yes,
forest. Wow.
yes, very gently. So it was a whole thing that was very unexpected, and it delayed us probably about 6 months
Well,
overall.
plus that's got to be expensive.
Yes, it was expensive also.
Wow. So you rounded up all 52 of them and sent them off to a new home.
Yes, two new homes.
Two new homes. Yeah.
Separate sanctuaries because they didn't have enough space at the one. So
All right. Well, fascinating. Yeah, that's a learning curve that nobody saw coming. That's for sure. So, based on that, is there anything you can do differently moving ahead? Because I guess
yeah.
you're looking at properties based on what's going to be attractive for your end user. And until you get the property kind of under contract or on the go, you can't really do the environmentals. So, is there a solution to that kind of situation?
Yeah, so we have two solutions that we now do because of this situation. We do our species study during due diligence. That's
Right.
one. And number two is we don't close in a lot of cases. This is what we strive for, is we don't close until the permit is awarded. So we go through everything. We don't actually own the land yet, but we're under contract, and then
Mhm.
we close when the permit is awarded. So we don't have all of the carrying costs it takes to get to permitting, and that
Uh,
helps save a lot.
okay, that's smart. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Okay. Well, Brian, as we're kind of wrapping things up, time to talk a little bit about investors and your relationship with these folks, bringing people on with private capital, because obviously these kind of development projects are very capital intensive. And I'm
Yes.
sure there's funding from banks and whatnot to a certain degree, but I believe you raise private capital for these kind of projects as well. So what is kind of your philosophy, your thoughts about your relationship with your private investors?
Yeah. So for us, we have an entire investor relations team. Our investors are the most important thing. We need them in order to do these projects. They are very capital intensive. So what we do, we follow a very strict process where every single month we do a pre-recorded webinar, and we have our own online investor portal that we use. So investors go in, they make their own login for the investor portal, and they can track their distributions through there and everything related to the project. And every month we do our pre-recorded webinar. We send out an email, and it's a very detailed email as far as everything that happened over the past month, along with a 10 to 15-minute video recording that we do with all the updates. And then, yeah, we're always available for questions. I'd say at this point we have somewhere around 200 investors in our deals, and
Mhm.
every single one of them has my personal cell phone. So, we keep in contact. A lot of them we become very good friends, very close. So yeah, I mean, they're partners in our deals, and we treat them like partners.
Yeah, that makes a ton of sense. So,
Mhm.
so Brian, there are lots of different ways that people can invest, different opportunities, different projects, different asset classes. You've touched on it, but beyond the very good returns that you're getting for your investors, what else do they actually get from working with you and your company?
Yeah. Yeah, I would say the biggest thing is communication. We like to be very transparent with everything that's going on. Communicating with our investors is big. Uh, you know, um, we do different events as well. So we do a groundbreaking event, with you've probably seen the pictures with the golden shovels and all of that when we're breaking ground. We do that. There's a top out party as well. So when the buildings are topped out, we have a party with a ton of food.
What
Investors
does
can
topped out mean?
Yeah, so the actual shell of the building is built.
Got it.
All the concrete is in place, it's dried in and everything, roof's in place. And we have a big party at that point with everyone involved, investors, subcontractors, contractors. There's
Nice.
raffles with, giveaways for a lot of the, workers that are, doing a great job out there. We recognize, people that are, working hard out on site. And yeah, we created some really cool events that we do.
No, it sounds like you make it fun.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yes, it is fun. Yeah. Yeah.
So, Brian, when people are looking at development type opportunities, what's the like in your experience, what's the number one thing investors get wrong when they're looking at a potential deal? What's a mistake that they might make when they're looking at an opportunity or a deal like you guys put together?
Yeah. So, yeah, so I'd say the main thing is timing of returns.
Hmm.
With a development deal, the returns can be huge. The main difference compared to an acquisition is the length of time you have to wait, because we have
Hmm.
to go through permitting, we have to build the buildings, we have to stabilize, we have to get to 90% occupancy, and then we refinance. And at that refinance, that's when we're able to pay back investor capital plus a return. And then investors are able to participate in all cash flow for as long as we own the asset.
Hmm.
And so I'd say the number one misconception is just that timing on returns, because it can be 4 years before investors see any capital. During that time, we're keeping them updated on progress, but then at that time, they get a large return. So, it works for some people as far as, they're okay with no cash flow for 3, 4, at the most 4.5 years. And it works in their cases, but the other investor, some investors are looking for more immediate cash flow and maybe a slightly lower return, and that makes more sense for them. So it just really depends on what your goals are and what you're
Yeah.
looking for. you know?
So for the development side of things, you need to be a patient investor because it just makes sense, right? You're building
Yes.
something. That's why it's called ground up development. You got
Yes.
to build it from the ground up. These are
Okay.
huge projects. It takes you
Yeah.
going through environmental and all that kind of stuff. It takes a while to get them to where they're 90% occupied and able to be refinanced
Yeah.
and then cash flowing after that. So yeah, it's more for the patient investor.
Yeah.
So as we're wrapping things up here, Brian, where are you taking your business and the portfolio, especially on the development side of thing, over the next few years? Where do you see things going?
Yeah, so over the next few years, our plan is to build a lot of these. We have a goal to do 10,000 units by 2030.
Wow.
And right now we're just under 1,200 units we have in development. We've created the team. We all love working together and we're doing a lot of great things. So we have big plans to keep it going. So we just in Florida, we plan on doing over 10,000 units by 2030 is where we're going.
Really exciting stuff. So, what does the right investor look like for what you're building right now, plus up until 2030? Like, what's the right kind of person for these kind of deals?
Yeah. I mean, we love savvy investors that understand development. Maybe they've invested in real estate before. Maybe they're eager to learn more about real estate. We have investors that own businesses, a lot of medical professionals, a lot of property management companies that are kind of tired of the day to day and want to be more passive. It's a wide array. I would say the most important thing is if you're accredited, that just means $1 million in net worth, not including your primary residence. If you're single, you're making over 200,000 per year. If you're married, you're making over 300,000 per year. And, making sure you meet that accreditation status. That's the most important thing because we can only take accredited investors. But I mean, we have a wide array. I would say we do focus a lot on reps status, which is real estate professional status, because these development projects, they have huge amounts of depreciation. So if you're rep status, you'll have to talk to your CPA about what that means, real estate professional. Then you can actually take 100% bonus depreciation at CO. And a lot of these development deals are 1-to-1 ratio. So at our certificate of occupancy, which we call CO or C of O, you're able to take that 100% bonus depreciation. So just for round numbers, if you were a $100,000 investor, that could equal to $100,000 in depreciation. A lot of our development projects have 40 million plus in depreciation. So it's big. It's a huge thing as far as saving on taxes, and it's really cool how it all works because we're just doing what the government wants us to do. We're providing, great housing for people, and with that, they reward us by paying significantly less taxes.
Sounds like a win-win. So, Brian, what's the best way for folks to reach out and contact you?
Yeah, so I would say the best way would be through email. You can email me at Brian, Brian, at trinitydevelopments.com. And yeah, just shoot me an email on there and I'd be happy to set up a call.
Sounds great. Well, hey, Brian, thank you very much for being on the show. Congratulations on where you've taken Trinity in such a relatively short period of time. I know there's tons and tons of work behind the scenes and all of that, but you're really hitting the ground running. And it sounds like you're doing fantastic things in Southern Florida.
Yes, thank you so much, Dave.
All right, everybody, thanks for tuning in, and we will see you again on the next one.
Thanks for joining us on the South Florida Leaders Podcast. If you're a successful local business owner or professional and you'd like to be featured on the show, visit southfloridaleaders.com/guest to apply.